Hello, my loves. So, divine feminine, you've learned how to surrender. You've even surrendered your connection to divine masculine, to the divine higher power. Now, what? This topic is coming up a lot. And I even wrote out some points that I wanted to talk to you about. What a very interesting energy of silence is surfacing as I prepared to come on to do this video. And it feels where the divine feminines actually quieted what they wanted and suppressed their voice or their wants in order to learn surrender. And it's actually how I've talked about sometimes we have to quiet one part of ourselves to learn the other part. So what I'm feeling is where many of the feminines um, calmed down and suppressed their normal action-oriented ways of being because so many of us were doing it from the masculine energies. And what's happening and where some of the feminines are becoming frustrated is where they've surrendered, where you've surrendered but divine masculine is not coming forward, where you've surrendered, but you're following your guidance, but perhaps you're not actually experiencing the things that you're wanting to experience. And some of that is just part of the process. But then we actually also do reach a point, a pivot point where it's actually important for us to start to bring in the energy of inspired action. And what I've been picking up is the part of you that has been suppressed in order to learn how to surrender. It is about bringing that part of yourself back, but learning how to work with it in a new way. I've had multiple conversations just in the past week connected to feminines when I said, okay, now it's time to start setting your intentions around what you want. I had multiple conversations and sort of like, well, how do I do that? I know how to do like the pushing. I know how to do the action oriented masculine way of manifesting and creating a manifestation board and getting very clear and almost that controlling, concise energy of what I want. But I just spent all this time learning how to let that go, how to surrender, how to let everything go to the higher power, how to trust the higher power, how to follow my guidance and completely let go of control. And that was an actual very important skill that was needed for you to develop. Now, here's the part two that is ready to come back. Again, this is where you do start to dance with the divine in a co creative way. So, what is happening is you're ready to build your next muscle. But the number one thing that needs to happen is the uncensoring of your action oriented aspect, the part of you that does take action, the part of you that did have clear, concise intentions. And what you're going to do, or what you can do with that aspect, is start to teach it about surrender and how to surrender while still taking inspired action. And this is where we harmonize surrender and control together. And this is what all of this energy is about, right? Yes, it's learning the ways in the opposite of what we were doing, but not to only stay stuck in the other side. Now it's about reharmonizing the surrender and the control. And now that you're more tempered, now that you have the capacity to surrender, to trust the higher power, to not try to control what divine masculine is doing or what anyone else is doing, because you're focused on receiving your own guidance. And maybe you're not getting specific action oriented guidance from the higher power. And if this is happening for a sustained amount of time, this, my loves, is that pivot point where the divine is giving you the reins back, not because you're going backwards, but because you have surrendered enough and you have shown your commitment to trusting the higher power and your capacity to listen, to wait, to be still, and to really, truly let go of trying to control what others are doing. If you have really found yourself in the place in the space where you're not judging others, where you're not having expectations of what others choose, and you're truly open to what's next is your capacity to co-create with the divine. So this is where you can go into these energies. I'm going to give you some step by step of what I do, not because this is what you need to do, but I want to give you some form of like a template to work from with those day to day practical steps of like, okay, Danielle, how do I go from surrendering and trusting and not trying to control anything to now manifesting what I want? So, what I do when this situation comes up for me, or when it first came in, I was very, very conscious that I would ask for what I wanted, but I would preface it with if this is truly in my highest alignment. And this was actually pretty easy for me to do because yes, there was things I wanted, but truly in every ounce of my heart, I did not want those if they were not what was best for me. And for any of you guys that have been here with me over the past year or two, and even for those of you who are new, I'll share with you a bit about my experience going from not having a place to live, bouncing around to 14 different places in 2 years, finally landing in an apartment, but ultimately wanting to purchase my own home. And during that process, it came to a point where there was some unfavorable things happening in my apartment. My lease was about to be up. I was in the position where I could potentially buy a house, but there was so many factors going into it, some of it that I couldn't fully know how it was going to play out. So I was very clear with the higher power. I would like to have my own home, but I'm not interested in doing this if it's going to put me in detriment. I only want this if it's the most supportive thing for me. Even though it was what I really wanted, I still kept surrendering back to my highest potential, my highest timeline, what was going to put me where I'm meant to be. Even to the point that instead of trying to figure out exactly what house I wanted, yes, there were certain things that I did want, but I didn't get over controlling. I had a few things that were really important to me, like a yard and safety, right? A place where I could land and grow a garden. Those were some things that were important to me. But other than that, I left the rest to the higher power. And I even took space when I didn't know exactly where I wanted to be. I kind of had an idea of the area. But again, instead of controlling, I went back to connect with Mother Earth directly. And I asked the earth and I asked the higher power, where am I wanted? Where is it going to be beneficial for me and the earth for me to be present? Where is a neighborhood or a place or a space that is going to accept and be happy that my presence is there? That was what I asked. And I did end up getting a house, what was interesting about the whole process is I was looking at some during a time when I wasn't feeling very well. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to put an offer in on a house when I'm feeling like this, but I'll just go put the energy out there. I pull up to the house, didn't even see the house. The trees in the neighborhood were humming. I knew without a shadow of a doubt. I called my dad before I walked in the house and I was like, Dad, this is Pop, this is the house I'm going to put an offer on. And I did. And through a whole bunch of series of events, I actually had my offer accepted on Earth Day 1 year ago. Excuse me. There's obviously energies processing with this. So you see, I'm explaining the story because it was a co-creative dance. And even when I put in the offer, I was very clear, if this is meant to be my house, it will be. Once the offer was accepted, there's still a whole process of getting everything in order that takes a couple months, right? And through every step of that process, I stuck to my intention. I stuck to my integrity. I stuck to the woman that I am and that I want to be and am in the new energy. I was very clear with my boundaries and I walked through the process every step of the way up until the minute that I actually received those keys unattached to the outcome in the sense that, of course, it was what I wanted, but I was willing to walk away and let go at any given moment that it did not feel aligned. And also, if something didn't go right on the other side and it fell through, I was in a space and place of trusting that if it was meant to be, that it would be, and if it wasn't, it would unravel. And although I had no place to go if it unraveled, I also trusted I would be okay and the next steps would present to me. You see what I mean? So this was definitely me asking for what I wanted and having my intention be a safe, stable home with a yard for me to plant a garden. But I also was like, if it's not now or not here, I'm open to it being whatever is aligned for me. And I know that that might be difficult to really grasp sometimes, but I think for most of you, it won't be because you've probably had to surrender to some very intense experiences. Now, what I did was take the same exact capacity of surrender, right? Letting the higher power be in control ultimately, but also being a co-creator with the higher power and saying, okay, I'm the human being down in this physical world, walking, living, breathing. And I would like to have a nice experience for this next phase of my existence because the first phase was kind of rough. So I'm listening. I'm willing to follow. I want to follow my mission. I'm committed to what I'm here for, but I also want to enjoy it. And I want to have space and place to do the things that I love as part of that. You see what I mean? So it wasn't me saying I have to manifest this house in this way and on my terms. It was a dance. It was a co-creation. And the reason this became easier and easier and easier for me to do was because it was coming down to how I wanted to feel. And I've spoke to many of you about this before, way back in the day when I had a manifestation board. At one point in my manifestation, this was before I even knew about the level of surrender that comes with the twin flame initiation. But I was learning it a little bit ahead of time in some levels. I had a manifestation board, I had all the things on there. In one day, I received guidance in a meditation to clear off the entire board. And it was a little bit scary because I was like, well, what is this about? what's going to happen now? The only thing that I left on that board was a saying that said, live the sweet life every day. And I walked away and I sat with it for a few days. And all of a sudden, the guidance came in and it came in very, very clear. And it was, instead of trying to manifest very specific things, I want you to think about how you want to feel. And I want you to put those feelings on your board. And I lit up because it became so clear and so obvious that if I was manifesting how I want to feel, does it really matter what's going on around me, who I'm with, where I am, and what I'm doing? Because if I'm manifesting the peace, the joy, the presence, whatever it is, and I'm experiencing that, whatever, whoever, wherever is going to be automatically aligned with those feelings. So I started to focus on supporting myself in cultivating those feelings, from how I woke up in the morning to how my space felt, how organized it was, how calm it was, how peaceful it was, those types of things. And then fast forward to this process that really breaks you down, right? And learning to completely surrender the control. And then, yes, I know it can be intense when you take so much effort and energy to learn how to surrender. And then you have someone saying, okay, now you're going to couple the surrender back with that capacity to intend and to manifest. But you're going to do it in a new way. Okay, my loves. And so the divine, your higher power, may be handing you back the reins because you have learned how to master surrender. And now you have that capacity to pump the brakes if you need to. You know how to surrender. You know how to go into stillness. You know how to trust the higher power. So, who better to learn the next levels of conscious co creation with the divine? Okay, my loves. And this, for those of you who have been learning this process because you've been embodying into your divine feminine energy and you've been waiting for the divine masculine to show up because you have mastered these energies and things may not be unfolding in the way that you thought that they were, that is okay. This is because you're ready to go to your next steps of conscious creatorship. If the divine masculine has not presented or shown up in your life in the way that you expected, it's not because you've done something wrong or because they've done something wrong. It is simply because there is still more for you to learn about your own capacity, your own capabilities, your own creatorship. And this is a gift. This is a gift, and it's where you take the next level of reins into conscious creatorship, which is a very important step to creating consciously with another. But you have the gift of learning how to practice with the divine. And as you are practicing this conscious co creation with divine source, you'll notice that you also draw in people, places, and experiences that are ready to start co creating with you, or at the very least, you can start to practice those skills. You can embody what that means for you. Now, I know this is a bit, maybe down the road if this idea is new for you. This is not a rush. This is not a race. This is about you embodying into your capacity as a conscious creator. And this, my loves, is an exceedingly important part of restoring sacred feminine energies, bringing the matriarch into balance with the patriarch. as we embody into all of who we are, this is a deeper layer of internal union energies, my loves. This is where you're taking those skills of surrender and trust in embodying that higher power energy and dropping that deeper into those lower chakras, reactivating your action oriented abilities, reactivating that part of your voice or your energy that was consciously suppressed so you could learn these other abilities, but now you're ready to bring that part of you out of suppression. Okay, my loves, this is a very important theme. When we're on this journey, like I said to you, we might quiet one part of ourselves to develop another. But once we develop that skill, it's time now to bring those other parts back. And yes, they might need some tweaking or some upgrading, right? So instead of just that control action oriented building, now you're learning inspired action, inspired intention, divine intention. Okay, this is my intention of what I would like to manifest. And I would like to add my 2 cents in to this creation, but I'm also still willing to surrender to the higher power and my higher self if there's something better that I'm not seeing yet. So I'm not trying to control it to the nth degree. I just want a seat at the table so that I can talk about and manifest what I want for my life since I'm the one in the physical living it. And this is another deeper level. This is a deeper bridge to that embodiment, coming out of hermit, actually living our lives and being the ones who are building the foundation, building our experiences. Okay, so there is the dance. As things come in, yes, we embody our standards. And now we can also start to embody our intentions. And we can do it in a way that honors the divine, honors our higher self, honors our core soul blueprint and why we are here. And yes, up front, it might take a bit to build that muscle. Very much worth it, my loves, very much worth it. Because this is you learning to dance with the divine in a new and deeper way. All right, my loves, maybe some of you are already doing this, and some of you are in that process. From the conversations that I've had, this is a very, very big topic that is presenting right now. And I hope that you found this video helpful. I feel multiple topics could unfold off of this because, like I said, there's like some of the parts that were suppressed recently. There's some parts that were suppressed from the past. There's parts of the feminine that have been forgotten that are wanting to open up in a whole entire new way that some of us might not even know ever existed. But it's through this process of holding yourself and stepping into your conscious creatorship that's going to allow those next steps to unfold. And this connects to that video I did a few weeks ago where we are unraveling the performance energy. This is where you're bringing more and more of your true essence to the table, to the reins, right? To harness your abilities as a human being in a physical body, as well as your higher spiritual expanded multidimensional soulness into this physical form and dancing with all of those parts of you, my loves. So, this is a very, very exciting time. I hope that you found some of the information within this video beneficial. I'm looking forward to supporting you on these next steps. And I would love to hear from you if you have any questions. I know many of you are navigating karmic family situations, karmic work situations, and really learning how to dance with some of these energies that we're speaking about in these situations. So, again, if you have any questions, you can drop those in the comments. If you would like to connect with me one on one, I do actually have some sessions available coming up this week. And as always, I have many of those recorded sessions available on my web store. If there's a topic you're specifically wanting to work with in a very personal way on your own time. So, as always, again, sending you so much love, and I would love to hear from you. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Much love. Take care. Peace.